Hello, my name is Sheila and I would like to welcome you to my podcast All About You. I love to listen to podcasts and especially conversations with famous people. However, I think everyone has a story to tell. Maybe a place you have visited, a hobby you enjoy, or anything that you feel would be of interest. I want to have conversations with lots of different people and hear their stories. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on my email allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com. Hello, my name's Sheila and I would like to welcome you to the All About You podcast for another interview. I'm delighted to be here with someone who has made a big difference to my life this year, and he is Cameron Hall from Bailar-con-Cameron, and we are recording this in his new studio called The Space in Valencia, Spain. I will let Cameron introduce himself, so let's get started. So Cameron, welcome to the All About You podcast.
Thank you, Sheila. It's lovely to be here. So, a little bit about me. My name is, as Sheila said, Cameron Hall. I am an ex-professional dancer turned choreographer, creative director. After travelling the world performing in musicals, pantomimes across the UK and the Caribbean and the world, I went on to choreograph a show in London's West End, turned my hand to choreographing films and TV, and then chose a new challenge and came to Valencia, Spain with my partner and opened my dance company and dance school here, Bailar-con-Cameron. So we turned 15 months yesterday.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a hell of a 15 months for sure. But yeah, so that's me. Now I'm here, sat here, very excited to tell you lots of interesting stories.
Right, so Cameron, I guess we have to go right back to the very beginning. And how did all this start? Did you want to be in the arts? Did you want to be a dancer or?
How did it start? That's a good question. So I am originally from a little town in the UK called Skegness. Contrary to belief, it's not in Scotland.
Why do people think it's in Scotland?
I think because of the Ness. They always think, oh, it must be Loch Ness.
Loch Ness. Right, I see now.
So it's a tiny little town on the east coast of England, and I lived there with my mum and dad and my twin sister. I'm very lucky to be a twin. And my mum danced all her life, and my sister, so the normal thing to do as a 3-year-old little girl, you go to ballet classes, and she would come home and demonstrate what she'd been doing in the class. And she would always go, oh, I can't do this move, or I can't do this move. And then I would have a go and somehow find it quite easy to do. And my parents obviously noticed, oh, hang on a minute. So at around 6, my mum had found a kind of street dance freestyle group. So it wasn't a ballet class, it was quite a cool little group that I went to, and we competed in competitions across the UK. So I was there from 6, competing from 6 to 18. My dance teacher there is still one of my closest friends. I still work really closely with them. I judge their competitions now that I used to compete in as a kid, funny enough. And that was it really. At 6, I decided to do that. And I realised then there was no boys. I think I only ever remember seeing a handful of boys in these competitions. So we were quite a novelty. And I think around when I turned, so I kept going and going and going. The bullying started quite early on, from what I can remember.
Wow. Is that because you were a boy who wanted to go into dancing? Or?
Yeah, it was it was really odd then for boys not to want, because I wasn't particularly a boy's boy either. I didn't
you weren't
play
into
football. I didn't like sport. I wasn't very good at sport. I was always really arty, and I'd much prefer to go and play with a Barbie doll than I would tractors and trailers and smash things about. And when I got to probably 8 and people started to realise, oh, hang on a minute, he's a little bit different to what society would like to make you believe a boy should do and a girl should do.
Right, okay.
The bullying started, and I was bullied from then until I left school at 17.
Oh.
It never really ended. So there was a few times where I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm not. And I would take a few weeks off, but I would miss it. My mum always says to me, when I'm on stage, I'm a different human being. There's something that just lights up. And so I kept going. And then Billy Elliot came out.
Oh my God,
which kind of changed everything for everyone. All of a sudden, dance was almost cool for a boy.
Absolutely.
Especially ballet, more than anything else. Ballet was suddenly really cool thing to do. Along came that with even more bullying, because then you were called Billy Elliot everywhere you went. And
I seem to remember in the film, which, Julie Walters was the ballet teacher. And if I can remember, bullying was obviously addressed in that film.
Yeah, quite.
I seem to. It was a long time
really
since I've seen it, but it was addressed then.
And the sad thing is, what are we on? We're 20 years on now, and I still, on a regular basis, get messages from parents of little boys saying he doesn't want to dance anymore because he's being bullied at school, or he's getting this trouble at school, or his friends keep leaving him out because he's got still 20 years on. So we're no further on, I don't think. And sadly, I wish we were, but it doesn't seem like we are. But I kept going. I thought, no, this is something that really makes me happy. And then I decided from Billy Elliot, I thought, hey, people make careers out of this. I wonder if I could do this permanently. Because up to that point, I wanted to be a history teacher, of all things. I know. Really
Where did the history bit come from?
I love history. I love history.
So that was a passion
And now I'm obsessed with theatre history and dance history. But I've always loved history.
Okay.
And I thought, I'll be a history teacher. And then I realised, oh my God, I could do this as a job. I could see the world and be on a stage, and people are going to pay me to do that as a job. Brilliant. So I thought, and lots of people at the time were telling me, hey, you will need to do some ballet, or you will need to get a bit more training than just this disco freestyle thing. So I joined another school, which was a ballet tap, a very traditional dance school. Mm-hmm. Again, she is now one of my best friends, that teacher. I still teach at that school when I'm back in the UK. And that changed my life. It really did. I went from being just a kid who liked dancing to being a dancer. I was there 3 times a week. I was at my other place at least once or twice a week. So it was a full-time thing, really.
So you were giving back to the people that had helped lift you up and give you the belief that, yes, you can actually do this, you've got the ability. Yes, you might have to do extra bits of training to increase your range, but then you are giving back to those people that gave you the belief and the support and encouragement. Yeah,
and I always said that when I felt that as a kid. I don't ever want to just leave, because you watch people kind of go off, even if it's not into the performing arts. I'd watch kids leave and not realise what they'd learn in those classes. Like, you don't just learn to dance, you learn the importance of appearance and posture and confidence and showing up for yourself, and the strictness of going, no, you said you were going to do this, you have to be there. And I am incredibly lucky that I had two teachers who shaped not only the dancer I am, but I think the person a lot of it as well.
So can we give a shout out to these two teachers, please?
Karen and Julie, if you are listening, you are wonderful. Thank you for everything. I tell you this a lot, but you are just a blessing in my life, and thank you very much.
Oh, well, we will make sure this podcast gets to you, so I'm sure you're going to be very proud of Cameron.
We will, I'm sure. They'll be listening and laughing along to a lot of these stories, I'm sure. Yes.
So really then, the bullying, everything could have stopped at that point, and you thought, right, no, I'm not going to go through this. I'm not going to put up this bullying. I'm going to go and do the traditional role and maybe go down the history teacher. But you thought no.
Yeah, and there was lots of times where it would have been easier. Really would have. I've just gone, it's not worth it. I don't think it particularly helped either that I wasn't... I think if I'd have been quite a macho boy, and if I'd played football and sports as well... I had a friend at school who was a ballet dancer, a boy ballet dancer, and he never got it quite as bad as me. But he played sports. He was a ballet dancer, but he was also brilliant at sport. And so the boys kind of skipped over that because he was one of the lads.
Yeah.
I never was that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could have, and it did. There were weeks where I just think, you know what, it's not worth. Is any of this worth it? I may as well just stop. But then I'd stop for 2 weeks and be so unhappy, and think, oh well. And now I'm so glad I did, and I'm glad my parents are wonderful. They wouldn't have let me stop.
So let's have a shout out to the parents.
My parents
as
are
well.
wonderful. They are. They're absolutely. I was so lucky. If I wanted to, my parents would say I was obsessed with dressing up as a kid. I would always have a sheet, and the sheet would be a dress or a cape, or it didn't matter what it was, or I'd have a stick and it'd be a wand.
So everything was a potential costume.
Everything was a costume or a story or a full-on show.
Oh,
there was
wow.
always a production, whether it was Christmas, New Year, family gatherings, there was going to be a production of some sort.
My God.
And we laugh now. My mum says at Christmas or no at gatherings, she always says, no shows, no shows.
Well, she'd have to pay now, wouldn't she?
She'd have to pay now, but
she'd have to pay an entrance fee.
She should have realised.
Yeah,
Take it while you can, Mum.
Exactly, Mother. You enjoyed all those free shows when he was young. Now you have to pay.
But they never tried to squeeze me into this box. They never tried to say, "Oh, can you be less? Do you really need to do that?" They never tried to do that. In fact, I think my dad did the opposite. Really, and said, "You just do you.
You just be you.
And he was my biggest cheerleader and biggest soldier. When bullies started, and he could see, I did a pretty good job of hiding it until a point.
It just breaks my heart listening to this.
And then my dad would ride in on his white knight and save the day.
Oh.
And then 2 weeks had passed, and it would start from a different person. It was literally continual till from 6 to 16. It didn't stop.
Kids can be so cruel. I remember at school, you've only got to wear glasses or be very tall or very short. You just got to, everyone wants you to be exactly like everybody else, and whether, you're a bookworm or whether you're, anything different, you are a target. And it is such a shame, because we need everybody, whether you're good at maths, whether you're good at dancing, art, singing, whatever. We need everybody.
Exactly, and everyone has their own. No one's a cookie cooker. Shape. Everyone has their own little thing.
Absolutely.
And you now see adults who are afraid to let their uniqueness, the thing that makes them so unique and special, out, because as a child, they were told on a permanent basis that's wrong. No, you need to like this, you need to like this, you need to do this, you need to do that. You need to be this. You need to be a man, so you can't cry. You can't play, do anything that's remoted to a female. You can't wear pink. You can't. Well, yeah, of course you can. Do whatever you want. Just be you. But I was very lucky that I had two parents and family that would never have let that happen. They were all very much, no, you do what you want to do. And then, so I did all that. I started to do more shows. I started to do pantos, and just fell in love with all of it. At that time I still sing, but I was a singer as well. So I would be going to singing classes and practicing. My dad bought me recording packs, so I have CDs of me as a kid recording stuff, and it was really cool. And at 14, I was in school, and there was an announcement at an assembly about a summer school happening in Nottingham. So Nottingham is about a 2.5 hour drive from Skegness. It was happening in the summer, and I didn't quite hear all of it, but they said, if you want more information, go to the office and get a bit of paper. So off I went, got this bit of paper and took it home. And the New English Contemporary Ballet Company, which no longer exists, they exist in a different name, but they were holding this summer school, ballet, contemporary dance, and jazz. Well, they'd never done contemporary, lyrical, that kind of roll around the floor and feel things kind of thing. If there are any contemporary dancers listening, they'll want to hurt me for saying that, but it's the easiest way to explain to general public what
exactly what it is.
And I said to my dad, I really, really want to go. And his auntie lived in Nottingham, so he said, I'll ring her and see if you could stay with her for the week. But it was quite expensive. It wasn't overly expensive, but it was a big chunk of money that we probably didn't have
Probably
to just...
wasn't in the family budget.
Yeah, just really to think, oh God, and it had to be paid up front, and there it was. But anyway, I went for a week. I had the time of my life doing all these different things. I was suddenly around people who thought the same as me. I was around like 20 other boy dancers. It was amazing. It finally felt like...
You found your tribe.
I was like, oh, yeah, I did. I really did. I was
you
like, oh.
found your tribe.
And these people got jokes, and although I was a real beginner, I didn't have a clue what was going on for most of it. At the end of that, they offered me a scholarship.
Oh my God! From that
week, yeah, they offered me a scholarship to go onto their associate program. So every Saturday, we'd get up at 7. My dad would drive 2.5 hours to Nottingham, drop me off in the morning. I'd do the classes all day, and then he'd pick me up and we'd drive home. That was every Saturday, and we did that for about 2 years. My sister would come with us one day, and her and my dad would go and do things, or my mum had come, or we'd spend...
So this was a big commitment, not just for
huge,
you, but for the family
whole
as
family.
well, financially, time-wise.
Yeah, of course, because it came with... Although there was a scholarship, there was still a certain percentage. And also, I had to have new ballet tights, new ballet shoes, new everything.
Yeah, you need all the gear.
And also I had to stay with my... So they would do Easter schools or long, intensive weekends, and I'd have to stay with family in Nottingham. It was a full family commitment. That really, I probably, until saying this out loud now, didn't probably realise the commitment level of everyone. It meant no one could go anywhere on a weekend, no one could do anything.
Because basically, whatever you were doing took over the weekend.
Yeah, everyone would have to do. So we couldn't go away for the weekend because I was always there. Or if we did, even my mum's birthday, I remember one year, fell on a Saturday. And it happened to be Mother's Day, and it's my parents' wedding anniversary as well on the same day. So normally we'd have had this lovely weekend, and they had to spend it in the car travelling and waiting all day. And then we stayed in Nottingham for the next day to do something, because otherwise we wouldn't have. But that's where really it all changed. And I thought, ooh, this is me. I could do this. And I was being told I could do it as well. It was the first time I'd probably been told by someone really in the profession, and not your dance teacher at home telling you.
So how did that feel? You'd found your tribe, you'd made this commitment, and then, as you say, you with other boys who'd got the same passion as you. How did that make you feel after? It must have been like the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You'd gone through all this bullying, and now you were in the place you should be with people.
And during the school week, if the bullying I knew, right, I've just got to get to Saturday.
Right.
And then I'll have a day of normality with people where they recognise that everyone's going through the same thing, and we'd all sit at lunch and kind of share stories of what we'd been through that week. And some of those people are still friends now. Some of them are still connected to... I had a wonderful teacher called Jamie Thompson, who is unfortunately no longer with us, who I really have to say he changed everything. He saw something in me that I didn't see. And I went on to join their youth company. And he basically choreographed a whole section around me.
Oh my God.
And I didn't ever believe anyone. So when I said, oh, you're good, I'd just be like, yeah, whatever. I was really underconfident with it, because it was all new to me, really, at that level. Doing a couple of pliés in a dance school in Skegness, I was a massive fish in a small pond, because... Yeah. But actually, I went to people where people were really good. They were really, really good. And some of them now are dancing with Matthew Bourne and with the Royal Ballet, and like that group of people are incredible people, and I still look at them now and think, oh my God, I was so lucky to dance with them in any shape or capacity.
I think that's a very interesting point you said. Back in Skegness in your classes, you were a big fish in a little pond. Then, when you're with and doing the Saturdays, you're a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah.
But that's when you really start to grow, because you're stepping up to the plate. It's all taken more seriously. It's getting more competitive. And that's when you really, as they say, start working, because, you've got to step up to the plate, you've got to improve, you've got to challenge yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There wasn't I can't really bother today. No, off you go. Come on. Got back in that ballet class at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, this is getting serious.
It's getting serious. And I loved it. And I went to Edinburgh Festival with them. I did Edinburgh Festival at the age of 14. I don't know many people who get to do Edinburgh Festival as a performer anyway, because to get to do that at 14 was amazing. It was life-changing that time. And then I toured with the Nutcracker with them. Some incredible opportunities came from that. By the end of that, I started to realise I was missing the musical theatre stuff. I was missing the singing and the razzmatazz.
Oh yeah, the jazz
hands and that part of it. I was missing the jazz hands and the theatre bit, because contemporary dance is very much very inward out, where I just wanted to get back to my competition roots, I suppose, and that performance thing.
So the giving your all, the sequins, the colour, the music.
The theatre bit of it,
yes.
The really theatrical production, spectacular bit. So at 15, I was on tour with them during the Nutcracker, and
You were on tour at 15?
Yeah, during my GCSEs, I missed 2 months of GCSEs because I did a Nutcracker tour.
Oh, never mind about GCSEs.
Yeah.
Sorry for all you teachers out there, including my husband. Sorry.
It only affected my chemistry grade, really.
Oh, and that's not important. Who wants to be a nuclear scientist?
I was awful at chemistry anyway. So if I'd have been there for 2 months, I'd still been no better at chemistry anyway. And they all sent me homework, and I was on this tour doing the homework, and the principal cast were from all over the world. The guy playing the Nutcracker was Matthew Bourne's, in Matthew Bourne's Swan Lake. The girl playing the Sugar Plum Fairy was a Spanish girl. So she'd help me with my Spanish homework, and we'd all it was amazing. It was an amazing...
I should imagine the cast probably sort of all played parenting roles. Did they all sort of
they did, because there was,
make a fuss of you?
Yeah, well, there wasn't just me. There was probably 15 of 15-year-olds doing that tour with their professional company. And it was amazing.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It's where I fell in love with the Nutcracker. It's where I fell in love with choreography and creating. Jamie Thompson, the guy I talked about earlier, had choreographed the Nutcracker, but in a completely new way. There was no traditional aspect. It was all new, same music, but new ideas and new, really clever, creative ways to do the snowflakes and to do the opening overture and the party. And it was incredible to watch and be a part of. So then, but I decided, I miss musical theatre, and I want to. This part of training has been wonderful, but I need to.
So you enjoyed the ballet aspect, but now you want to go back.
And I didn't want to be a ballerina. I knew I didn't want to be a ballerina. I knew that there wasn't enough razzmatazz there, and also I missed singing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's probably not a lot of that in the ballet, is there?
No. Or like miming. Like even now. If I'm teaching, I mime or sing along. I just can't help it. So I missed that. So then I thought, no, off I go back to Skegness. Kept up. I did a few AmDrams in.
So what's an AmDram?
An amateur dramatic society. So they're basically, I suppose in America they're called community theatre.
Oh, okay.
Like a group of people who just enjoy performing and singing or dancing, but have normal careers. So a lawyer, or a doctor, or a policeman.
By day, and then on a Friday night.
And then so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'd all go into these studios and we'd work together and put a musical together. I did Fiddler on the Roof as a dancer, and this is where I learned my craft. Those are where I learned the basics of quick changes and stage left and stage right, and you're not on your mark, and where are the lights. That's where I learned
technical aspect.
That's where I learned it all, not stage school, I learned it there. And it's it's an amazing place when people walk in and you literally see, there's a policeman, a doctor, a cleaner, a nurse, and they all come together and they all put on these costumes and we sing Tradition from Fiddler on the Roof. It's the strangest thing in the world.
Wow.
But it's also incredible. So I did that, and then they were doing Thoroughly Modern Millie. And that's where it all changed. They cast me as Jimmy, so the male lead in Thoroughly Modern Millie, at 16.
I was going to say, how old? So 16.
16 going on 17.
That's a song from The Sound of Music, I think, isn't it?
16.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because it was just before I left to go to London. So it was 16 turning 17. And they passed me as Jimmy. First time I'd ever been a lead, first time I'd have to sing, mic'd up in front of a full theatre of people, learning a full script and doing it all. And that was really where it all changed. It all became, this is what I'm going to do.
Right, so the stars are beginning to align.
Yeah, everything had kind of come into place. Everything that I'd done from 6 had started to stack up and build to this kind of story and path for me. And then this was it. This was, no, this is what I want to do. This. Nothing else. This. And that was it.
So what was it about that you thought, this is it, as opposed to ballet? Was it an accumulation of experiences? Was it one particular thing?
It was the choreography.
Right.
Of just, because I got to assist choreograph that show as well as playing Jimmy. And it was the first time I felt like,
So you were both sides of the curtain then. You were performing as well as putting the choreography together. So you were sort of wearing both sides. Hats.
And it's where I fell in love with the choreography aspect and that side of the table. And it's something I'd always loved, being that side of the table, whether that was writing school plays or doing pantos at school or whatever. And then it was the choreography. It was getting involved with a cast of people, feeling like a family. It was the applause at the end. That sounds really egotistical, doesn't it? But there's something about just giving everything and people clapping at the end, and you feel that buzz in a theatre. There was nothing like a finale in a theatre. Nothing. I've never come close to that feeling of people clapping and just the joy, both on stage and off stage. Well,
that's really interesting to hear, because I love the opera, I love ballet, I like music. And, when you go to a concert, and yes, you're sitting there for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it comes to the end, and we have, the applause at the end. And you think, I've had the most wonderful 2 hours with the music, with the costumes or whatever. And, you're standing up and applauding. But I often think about the hours and hours that the performers have spent. It's the costumes, it's the rehearsals, it's learning the script, it's the lighting, as you say, all the things together for that 2 hours that we've paid money for. From my point of view as a member of the audience, it's just magical. But for us, it's 2 hours of absolute bliss. But for you, it's years and years and years of training and practice and blisters and sore muscles. And
I think the main thing is, most performers are told through their whole entire lives, you'll need a backup. You should probably train. I remember getting that as a kid. My dad saying to me, you should probably have a backup, just in case. And a singing teacher once said to me, and it stuck with me, singing teacher said to me, well, if I want to be a doctor, I don't have a backup plan. I just become a doctor. So
very
why
true.
should I want to be a performer, so that's what I'm going to do. And it's that being told being an actor or a performer is not a real job, which you get told a lot. People don't realise they're saying it. Like, what do you do when you're not performing?
It's a mixed message, really. It's just saying...
Yeah. So then when somebody suddenly is clapping you and you go, now you realise that this is my job and this is my passion, and someone's saying to you, well done, you did it, bravo. It's not a feeling like it. There really isn't. So yeah, that was 16, 17, and that's where the real life and performance and work began.
Okay, well, I think we're going to have to do this podcast with Cameron as a series. So I think we will class that as part 1, and hopefully I think we've probably got about parts 2, 3 and 4 with this. So Cameron, thank you so much. I've absolutely so enjoyed hearing your story. You know, it breaks my heart what you had to go through with the bullying, and I remember that part in the Billy Elliot film. But I think, you know, so many interesting points have come out. You know, the people that saw your ability before you did, being the big fish in a small pond, and then going on and thinking, right, you know, I'm a little fish in a big pond now. I've really got to, this is where it gets, you know, gets real. I've got to challenge myself. So Cameron, do you want to leave the listeners with a bit of advice for anybody out there who maybe is thinking about becoming something in the arts, singing, dancing, acting? Some bit of advice you would pass on to maybe that 6-year-old self that you were?
Oh, that's a good question, Sheila.
Oh, I probably should have given you this before.
No, I like the minute it'll be real. If I could tell my 6-year-old self something, it would genuinely be, you have something really unique and special, and some people won't see that, and some people will see it before you can. But everyone, this is not a 6-year-old. This you could be a 46-year-old. And so you all have something special. My favourite quote in the world is, "The universe buries strange jewels in all of us and watches and stands back to see if we can find them." And I think... Oh
my God, we need to put that on the wall.
And that's true for everyone. So whether you're a young person wanting to be a performer, or you're an older person wishing you could go back to a ballet class, or want to go into an Amjam, but you feel silly or scared, you have something special, and if you don't share that with the world, it'll be a real shame. So whether it's being a performer or being a lawyer or being a doctor or recording a podcast, you know, share your jewel with people, because we want to see it.
Yeah, I think it's like following your passion, isn't it? No matter what it is, as long as it makes you happy and it's legal,
that's
not hurting
matters.
Anybody, then they just go for it. Life is too short, as we all know in the current situation we're having to cope with in COVID. I mean, Cameron and I are sitting here, we've got our masks on, we're social distancing, so everybody please stay safe, and we'll get the podcast more time with Cameron for the next part of the podcast. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you very much, Cameron.
Thank you, bye-bye.
I hope you have enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget, if you have a story you would like to tell, please get in touch. My email address is allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com, and thank you for listening.